going to lose this hatchery. There's nothing mining at it yet, so he's not going to lose any drones or anything, but at the same time, losing that hatchery is a bit of a blow to his economy because he's not going to be able to mine off of that, and trying to save that hatchery, but not able to get there in time with his Mutalisks and Roaches. But it looks like he is going to try to take out this medevac, so these Marines are going to be lost, and a ton of Banelings coming in with these Roaches and Mutas to really just take out that infantry without any problem at all. And it looks like drewbie is possibly going to be on the move here very shortly, getting a couple of Marauders in the mix here as well. It looks like about 5 Marauders, but there is an overwhelmingly large amount of Marines and still a pretty large amount of tanks. It looks like 9 tanks now in this mix, although he does have a total of 11 tanks on the map. I'm not sure where the other 2 tanks are. It looks like they're in his base still. So a ton of tanks as well, which again, tanks are very, very strong against Banelings. They're very, very strong against Roaches. So we'll see if he's able to break down this Terran army with his composition. He really needs to catch that Terran army when the siege tanks are not in siege mode. And it looks like the Terran player, drewbie, going to be moving in and taking out an expansion possibly. But no, he sees the counterattack coming from KiLLeR, and he's going to come back and immediately try to defend against that because he is going to lose a lot of tech and a lot of mining at this base here, and a ton of damage being dealt immediately from all these Roaches and Banelings, and forcing the command center to lift off that orbital command, trying to run away. And there is no anti-air anymore. It looks like he has managed to take out all of the Mutalisks that were with this Terran army, and he is, or I'm sorry, with this Zerg army. I'm sorry, there are 2 Mutas over this still. So, and actually, you know what? These menu bars, I've got these put up because I play with them, but I realized that that's actually not very conducive for casting, so I'll try to remember to turn those off next time around. But it looks like the Roach army is going to be moving up under here. Oh, and a great fungal growth, although unburrowing underneath that Terran army with so many tanks and Marauders was probably a bad idea, especially with all these medevacs overhead. And he just makes very, very quick work of that Zerg army. And now if we take a look at the production here, I'm sorry, for the yeah, here we go, the supply cost. It looks like both players are actually pretty even, really close to being maxed out once again. So the Zerg player is staying on top of his macro, and actually it looks like he's taken one of the expansions on the Terran side of the map, and he is not yet aware of that. So that is a pretty big deal, because if he can mine out one more expansion than the Terran player, that will definitely tip the scales in his favor. And a lot of units here for the Terran army, once again, sticking with that Marine, Marauder, Tank, Medevac combo, which is very, very strong. A lot of players having trouble dealing with this unit combination when you get to this mass, but here comes one of the answers for it. If you can get them in range, the Ultralisks, although there are a ton of units here, these Ultralisks just burn through almost everything in their path, and it looks like all those Ultras are now going down. There's still a small amount of Terran infantry in the mix here, but so many more Ultras coming in right now. It looks like they are going to be able to take out this hatchery in great control there, picking up all the infantry he can in these medevacs, although a very good fungal growth on a group of these medevacs here, trying to buy him some time so that he can get some anti-air in here possibly, although it doesn't look like KiLLeR's going to be able to get anything in there to deal with those medevacs, and he's going over to try to take out all of the tech from KiLLeR, and a bunch of Zerglings moving up into place, and apparently drewbie going to back off and concede that small victory to the Zerg player here, although he did manage to take out the hatchery at the yellow base. And it looks like drewbie has put a planetary fortress at his own high yield base, which allows him to protect that much easier. This is a very vulnerable expansion in the map, and to be able to have a planetary fortress there is a big deal. So getting up a few turrets here as well, going to be defending against those Mutalisks, because of course the planetary fortress does not have the capability to attack air, so those Mutalisks would be able to pick that off without too many problems. And here come the Zerg army once again, a ton of Ultralisks getting up here in the mix, although this Terran army is very compact. I don't know if it's going to be able to do a ton of damage, but great control on the fungal growth, getting some good fungal growth off on that infantry army, but there was just too much of it, and once again wiping out that Zerg army. And the Zerg player, as you can see, keeping his resources very low, although he is 30 supply behind the Terran player right now, so he needs to macro up a ton of units and very quickly before this Terran player pushes out against him on the map, because drewbie is in a dominating stance right now as far as his army supply goes. But once again, looking at the base, oh my goodness, yeah, he scans it. He sees the Overlord. You can see just inside that sensor tower radius, so he realizes that there's something up there and moves up here in order to take out this expansion. So once again, the bases have been evened out, and it looks like the Zerg player not going to be able to hold on to this extra expansion. So he is going to have to take out the Terran player the good old-fashioned way, just by out-muscling him rather than trying to just out-macro him, or I'm sorry, take more bases than him in the long run, because that resource advantage would have been absolutely huge. As it stands right now, though, both players have the capability to mine basically the exact same amount of resources, so it'll be a battle of strategic wits to see who can spend their resources better. And of course, a lot of people complaining that before the latest patch, Zerg players were having a lot of trouble dealing with this type of Terran army, especially with the Marauders and the siege tanks. And of course, in the 1.1 patch, the one thing that a lot of people had questions about, and I'll go ahead and mention this real quick while there's a small lull in the action, although it looks like there's going to be a huge drop here in a second, but one of the things that a lot of people were confused about with the latest patch is that there was no nerf to the Marauder, which a lot of Protoss players especially feel that the Marauder needs a huge nerf because it's so powerful against everything out of the gateway from the Protoss in the early game. So definitely, if you guys have any opinions on that, go ahead and put that in the comments on this video right now. But I am going to divert back to this action here, because there are a ton of Ultralists being dropped, and even some infested Terrans here coming down in the Terran base, just going to take out a ton. And it looks like there is a drop going down up in the base here for KiLLeR. So a bunch of counterattacking going on, taking down some factories, taking down the armory, taking down some starports, and the Terran army just now getting into place so that he can actually do some damage to this offensive. Meanwhile, though, it looks like the Zerg player not having a whole heck of a lot of problems cleaning up this Terran offensive on the other side of the map. Only one Marauder remaining, and here go the medevacs going down, and the Zerg player is now trying to take on a bunch more infantry, and a lot of this infantry and mech has been damaged to some degree, but unfortunately not enough units to clean it off. We did see some more great fungal growths, and let me say, as a Zerg player against Terran, fungal growth, a very, very highly underused ability. I'm glad to see that KiLLeR is using it so much in this matchup, because against infantry, it is very, very powerful. And some Zerglings coming up here, going to clean up this siege tank, and that siege tank almost managing to pick off KiLLeR's hatchery at the high yield base once again, but managing to save it with only a few hundred HP left. And here come the Terran on a counterattack. He is going to need to do some stellar defense with fungal growth. As you can see, he is once again about 30 supply behind the Terran army, which is definitely not where you want to be as a Zerg player. Although here come the answer to everything the Terran player has, with the exception of Vikings, getting some Broodlords. Broodlords are absolutely devastatingly powerful against tanks and Marauders, especially because they do not have any anti-air capability, but even against Marines they can be very, very difficult to deal with. Although here come some battle cruisers. He definitely is going to need to get some Corruptors in position to help defend against these BCs, because those BCs can be absolutely brutal to deal with if you are a Zerg player with no anti-air. And right now it looks like that is the problem. Here come the BCs along with the Terran army. A good fungal growth there, freezing up a bunch of the infantry, although those infantry units are going to be able to push through without too many problems. And a lot of these medevacs are running out of energy. As you can see here, most of them are pretty much out of energy at this point, so not going to be able to heal this Terran army as much as they have in the past. And it looks like KiLLeR is aware that he's going to lose these Broodlords, trying to get them in position to do some more damage on this infantry army, but the Broodlords so slow they're not actually going to be able to do anything. And there are some Vikings joining up here with these BCs. A ton of BCs and Vikings right now. This is starting to look very, very bad for a Zerg player, as he is still 10 supply behind, but does not really have any serious anti-air to deal with this Terran air threat. And as you can see, he is still building a lot of Ultras and a lot of Zerglings, but he does not have any Corruptors on the map from what I can see. If we look at the units tab right now, we can see that he indeed does not have any Corruptors. Some Infestors, though, would go a long way if he could get some good neural parasites off. Although looking at the production, we can see here he is starting to build some Hydras, but the Hydras may be a little bit too little too late. Really what he needs to do is get some Corruptors, use that corruption ability on these BCs, which allows them to take damage so much quicker and makes them a lot more effective as far as taking them out. And it looks like he does have a couple of Corruptors out on the map now, but he is supply blocked after losing a ton of Overlords over here. You can see these Vikings just picking off a massive amount of Overlords. Oh my gosh, and he is supply blocked by nearly 40 supply and a lot of Yamato guns, or as Elisa calls them, the tomato gun, going off on the hatchery here, managing to take off that hatchery without any problems. Here comes a bunch of Overlords trying to get our Zerg player back in the green here as far as supply goes. and it looks like he is going to get back in the ability to produce here, but not going to have anything to defend against these BCs and Vikings just yet. Trying to get out more Hydralisks. This is not going to be enough Hydralisks, though, to take on that many BCs and Vikings, although we'll see if he's able to hold it off. He is going to continue to produce Hydras. You can see 11 more building right now and continuing to produce Infestors as well, and looks like he's actually got some Corruptors too, so going to possibly cast some Corruption. Yeah, we can see that there are some Corruptions going down and taking out those BCs actually pretty quickly, because he is still trying to focus down those Corruptors first instead. So those Hydras doing a lot more damage than I thought they would, with that Corruption ability being used very well, and then also the BCs not focusing down the Hydralisks when they needed to, going after the Corruptors instead, and that was definitely a small mistake by the Terran player, although at this point I think he is so far ahead that it's not going to matter. You can see getting up his next expansion on the bottom here, now taking his whole side of the map, and the Zerg player has lost his gold expansion once again. And here are the Vikings from the Terran player, just kind of hanging out in the middle of the map, gonna let the Hydras get some free shots in them. Yeah, come on Hydras, throw some spines up at me, we can take it. But yeah, the Zerg player once again down by 2 expansions, which is not a good place to be, and the Vikings apparently are going to be going Overlord hunting, taking out yet another Overlord. And with that many Vikings, as you can see just there, one shot, one volley from all these Vikings is enough to take down an Overlord in a one hit. So that is definitely a bad place to be for the Zerg player. But looking at the rest of the map here, yeah, we can see there are a ton of expansions here for the Terran player. drewbie managing to get up a planetary fortress at another expansion over here. So he's got 2 planetary fortresses, although his high yield base here in the middle of the map has already been mined out. So at this point, he's not really going to need that to defend his high yield base. And here come the Terran army once again. This could be the killing blow here if the Zerg player does not handle this well. There is a ton of Marauders and Marines, and it looks like a little bit lighter on the tanks right now, only 2 tanks in this current mixture, but there are more Marauders coming over here to do some harassment, and there currently is nothing over here to defend against this other than 1 Spine Crawler, which is not currently in range of these Marauders, and a Queen, which it looks like those Marauders just going to focus down that hatchery. But here come the Vikings trying to pick off some more of these Overlords, and all of those Vikings going down, and it looks like he actually managed to take out the expansion here from the Terran player. So getting a small win there, although he is trapped up in this base right now and is not going to be able to take on this Terran army at all. Trying to do as much damage as he can because he has no way to get out of this base at this point. But drewbie just completely running over that Zerg player. So that is definitely not a good place for him to be. Still has a bunch of Ultras and Hydras on the map. If we look at the unit compilation here, we can see he's got 13 Hydras, 2 Ultras, and 12 Banelings right now. He also does have 5 Infestors, so using that fungal growth ability is still going to be key. And it looks like he is just resorting to basically long distance mining these bases, not even going to try to put up any more hatcheries, just going to take the minerals that he can with the hatcheries that he can, and not even worrying about putting up another hatchery here. It looks like just gonna basically go with the flow, an all in desperation attempt here, it would seem. So we'll see if he's able to rally enough to take down this Terran army. If he can take down this Terran army, the Terran's production capability is not that great, so he may actually be able to run over a huge amount of the Terran's base if he can actually take down this army. But we'll see a pretty good fungal growth there, but a bunch of, looks like 3 siege tanks, 4 siege tanks backing up this Terran army, trying to throw down some infested Terrans, getting some good fungal growths off, but it is still not going to be enough. Those siege tanks just dominating those Zerg forces, and it looks like KiLLeR is going to GG and give this game to drewbie. drewbie fighting absolutely wonderfully, and KiLLeR really showing some great Zerg play. A very solid Zerg player, did pretty good on his macro. I wouldn't say it was Hydra level macro, but he did a great job at using fungal growth, which is something that I do not see enough Zerg players using, and even I myself have been trying to learn how to use it more. I've been playing Zerg since the game came out, and I still do not use that ability enough because I am terrible. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, if you guys like the video, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe, of course, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. GG.